Hello everyone, I'm Brian. Welcome back. Let's continue.
Where they all gather around and they share out loud something to be thankful for. The biggest compliment we've had on that is students saying, "Oh, Sadhguru, I have that in my life, but I've never been thankful for it. And you just were thankful and had gratitude for that in your life. Oh, now I realize I should be thankful for that." We're in over 50 schools. That's the idea is, when we've had some students come in the ninth grade and be in gangs or into drugs, and then 4 years later, they're a valedictorian or they're getting a scholarship to help show them options. So much of what we're learning is that most of them just don't know better or know of a different path. So that's youth prevent before the cure is really where most of Camilla and I's work has been put in. We just started this Green Light Grant Initiative. Yeah. There was all that Bipartisan Safer Communities Act, that billions of dollars that came out with that to help safen schools through, whether it's physically safening schools or through more mental health counselors. And what we found is after that billions of dollars that was available, nobody was applying. No American schools were very few were applying, and the ones that were applying weren't getting granted, were getting the grants awarded. And so we found there was a big awareness problem, and two, a big communication problem from the schools through the red tape to the agencies in the government that have this money, that want to give this money. That's the thing, the government wants to spend this money, but they sitting there saying, if we don't spend it by 2026, we're going to reallocate it and this thing's over. We were like, well, do you want to spend it? They're like, yes, we want to spend it. You have to show us the need. Well, we found out that these superintendents that have to fill out these grants are usually wearing 3 or 4 different hats in the school. They don't have the time or the expertise. Yep. We help them, we give them grant writers, and we help them write those grants. And then the government goes, we see the need, here's the funds to safe in your schools. So those are the two main purpose-driven things that Camilla and I are working on right now. Yeah. And mainly in the U.S.
I mean, I'll say this about the grants and stuff. While it may seem like it's a difficult thing to do, I think it's a wise thing to do, because you don't want that money going to frivolous things or going to places where it doesn't need to go. You don't want it to be so easily accessible that anyone can grab it and it's, people are wasting it. But at the same time, you don't want it very hard where people who actually need it are like struggling to, request for that money, I suppose. So it's kind of interesting how he said that. I think most of the people that requested that once the grants are, this, I said, wearing 3 hats, meaning they're doing so much at the school that they don't have time to write it. And and some of them seems like they potentially don't know how to write it, or maybe don't have time to write it, because again, the 3 hats or them doing so many different things at school that they don't have time for it.
And what I love about what you're working on, and it's similar to what you said around service being a really important element, gratitude being a really important element. I think, by the way, what I've learned with young people in the context of service is a great antidepressant also. Yeah. It's the best antidepressant to really kind of step yourself up and out of your world. And in a world where we have mental health crisis with young people at record levels, the more we can be of service, I think the better we all are. And so I love what you're doing. I love how you're taking on the system. The government is not always easy to kind of navigate through. So what a gift to give.
And we heard that earlier with
Michael Regan.
Yeah.
We had the head of the EPA on before this.
Saying we can't do it. We need private and public, more private and public partnerships, and we need citizens to push us.
Right.
He said it very blankly.
Yeah, I think that's right. And so I think coming together, getting involved in these initiatives for folks here, I think would be very fulfilling for you and very meaningful for this team. And so I'd like the audience to hear a little bit about the Ishra Foundation, the incredible work that you do around the world, and how can the folks here at Dreamforce get behind your efforts as well?
Real quick before Sadhguru talks. I want to explain why I shook my head whenever she said that, the young people with mental health issues and the fact that them participating in these events or these things, service, is a way to help for mental health. I shook my head because it's kind of sad that this is needed to get people out of the mental health, but at the same time, I also have to understand that everyone's different, which I do. That's the reason why I always do the understand. That's my biggest thing for me. Why I don't get frustrated or angry or whatever the case may be is understand. I guess I don't know. I can only kind of view from my perspective, and also try to understand from a different perspective. Understand that the feelings that they feel, and if I have similar feelings to maybe something that's not quite related, but the same feelings. So, for example, I guess any kind of sadness. You know, I mean, the loss of a loved one, then you can relate to that. But like, if for example, like you lost a pet, but someone else lost, someone that they love, you can kind of sympathize a little bit with that. You can understand the feeling, although you may never grasp the magnitude of that feeling. But at least you have some understanding, and you know why it's happening. So with these people, it's sad that they have to depend on this, but at the same time, I think it's a good thing just because there's got to be a first step somewhere. And it does, so long as that first step is helping them get out of it, I think it's a good thing. So while obviously, I don't want to say enlightenment, but detachment was in my opinion, the ultimate goal in terms of at least reduction of suffering. Um, or at least understanding it from my point of view. I have some detachment, I have understanding. I don't have to detach if I can understand it. But I do have both. I have some detachment, I have some understanding, and with that, I don't suffer very much. I don't believe I would have those mental health issues because I understand. So it's not. I do believe that some of the mental health issues because of the lack of understanding. Um, because I do, again, I don't know for sure, but I would assume it's because there certain things they want to go their way, but they don't understand why it's not going their way, and that could cause a mental health issue. Because again, I'm not saying that's the only case or that is the case, but it is part of the case. I know it's more complicated than that, and there's many more things to that. Obviously, like PTSD, that's definitely a mental health issue. That's very valid. There's just a few other things as well, but I think understanding is a good start for a particular part. Then detachment's another great one. I think ultimately that is the right path. I don't know if everyone can follow that path. My path is understanding and detachment. I do more understanding than detachment, though.
Well, I won't go about listing few things to do that we do. The important thing is fundamental concern is the human being, because the nature of the human being is such, if they attune themselves well, they are the greatest solution. If they are not tuned properly, they are the greatest problem, not just for their lives, but for every other life. Every other life is suffering on this planet because of us. So, Jane, with her courage and commitment, focused on one species which made a difference, at least the narrative changed in the world about those wonderful creatures. But we must know, in the last 70 years, 84% of the vertebrate population on the planet has disappeared. So one thing that people need to understand, this is not an environmental lesson I'm saying, this is a spiritual process. Because what is physical process means is that it's about our body, its survival, its needs and its fulfillment. Physicality comes only because of a defined boundary. This is my body, that is your body. This means we define this by the boundaries of this body. In fact, the essence of physicality is a defined boundary. If there is no defined boundary, there is no such thing as physicality in the universe. So what we are referring to as a spiritual process is that in some way you transcend the limitations of your physical experience and in turn your physical identity. If this doesn't happen, we will create one after another problem. As we get more and more enabled and empowered, we will create bigger and bigger problems because our intelligence functions according to the identifications and experiences that we have. So my essential work is to expand human experience in such a way that if you sit here with your eyes closed, you experience everything in this hall as yourself. See, right now, whatever number of kilograms we carry right now as our body, we were not born like this. Say, look at the baby. We were born like this, but baby came like this. Just the food that we ate. From how many different places this came. When it was out there on the land, we called it soil. When it came up, we called it a crop. When it came into the kitchen, we called it food. Then when we went inside, we said, this is me. So this process we have misunderstood and it's not in our experience. We're just looking at just what is within me as me, not everything else. We clearly know from our experience that if we do not transact in terms of respiration, you won't exist here for more than 2 minutes. Now we did in 1998, when some UN agencies came to southern India and made a prediction that by 2025, 60% of the southern India will be in desertification process.
Well, it's… Oh, this is 2024, okay, I was gonna say, I don't remember how old this video is because it's 2025 now, so I don't know how that's doing.
I don't like predictions, because predictions don't take into consideration what is beating in the human heart. Cold statistics and you project, this is what will happen. So I wanted to make sure I just drove around southern India by myself to see what is happening. Then I saw it won't go till 2025, it'll happen sooner, because 3 rivers in where we are, the state we are, perennial rivers had gone dry, hundreds of tributaries had gone dry, it's just a question of time. So we started a project called Project Green Hands. When I told people, I made a barefoot calculation, see right now, in the state where we are, at that time I'm saying, in early… in 1998, I said, see, the average green cover in this state is 16%, but the national aspiration is 33%. So I just made a barefoot calculation and said if we plant 114 million trees in this state, in 8 to 10 years, we will have 33%. So I called a bunch of volunteers, about 4,000 plus volunteers, and said, see, we need to plant 114 million trees. Their eyeballs rolled. Sadhguru, do you know how much is 114 million? How many zeros out there? How do we do this? Then I asked them a simple question, what's your population? That region has a population of 62 million. I said, if all of us plant one today, nurture it for 1 year and plant one more, the number is done. So number is not the problem. All of us consume, but all of us are not willing to do the compensatory activity. So then we came up with a simple process that I have a certain way of doing things with people, push them to the extreme and then make them experience something. So then I pushed them like that and made them sit under a tree and breathe. So in their experience, they clearly saw what I exhale, the tree inhales, what the tree exhales, I inhale. Once they experience this, now you can't stop them from planting trees. Just last week, about 8, 9 days ago, we completed 112 million living trees.
Wow.
In that region. But now we took up one river which has a catchment area or a river basin area of 83,000 square kilometers. So that takes 2.42 billion trees to make the river flow once again. I grew up on the banks of this river, and what it was then, today what it is only 40% left. It's a perennial river, must have flown for millions of years, but today it is only 40%. Along the way, it is a rich forest and wildlife and everything is dwindling, nobody counts that. But I'm saying even for human consumption, only 40% of the water is left. So I said, if you don't put back the vegetation, The river will not flow because it's a tropical river. The only source that we have is the monsoon rains. The land has to retain the water and let it go slowly. That is the only way it works. These are not melting snow kind of rivers. So, this project is on right now and it's going on, but as I said, 112 million trees is a drop in the ocean.
Yeah.
But people think it's fantastic. That's what is tragic. That we think little steps like this are fantastic. No, what we need is 112 billion trees on the planet. Because right now everybody, it's fashionable to talk about climate change and global warming. Let's understand this much. Let's say global warming. I'll make you stand in the hot sun in summer, stand there for 2 hours, then move under a tree. Do you see there's a climate change? Minimum 3 to 4 degrees difference right there, one tree. So this is what is needed. We must understand life on this planet is sustained by a tremendous phenomena called as photosynthesis. How much photosynthesis we had 1,000 years ago, today we have only 15% of that. So generally oxygen levels are going down, nobody talks about that, everybody talks about carbon dioxide or carbon monoxide. Please talk about oxygen, hello? Because that's what life thrives on here, on this planet at least. No, everybody is talking about carbon because there is money in it. But oxygen, I think all of you are oxygen-breathing people? I think so, looking at you. So, only 15% of the green cover is left. That means 15% of the photosynthesis is on compared to what it was 1,000 years ago. Our populations have gone up significantly since then, and how life will be on this planet in the next 30 to 40 years is not very pretty. It's not a very pretty picture unless we turn it around. Not that we cannot turn it around, we can turn it around. But everybody wants to do their own fanciful things, it won't work. We must understand a simple thing. Every extra green leaf that you put on this planet from this moment onwards is one small step towards climate mitigation, every extra leaf. How many leaves will be put before we fall dead? That's a question.
I honestly want like an orange tree, an apple tree, like a fruit tree in my backyard because one, it provides shade, two, it provides shade on the house so the AC is not cutting on all the time, and you save money because it provides shade. And on top of the shade that it provides, when you're outside, providing shade, you're having free fruit. If the bugs and stuff don't get to it first. But of course, it produces so like we have a pear tree. I don't. I should harvest some of the pears sometimes. But I need to learn when to harvest the pears. But it doesn't go all the waste. But a lot of it drops, and a lot of it's eaten by the different kinds of insects and stuff, which is fine. Honestly, it's a lot of fruit, and I don't think I could eat that all. It's really a lot. It grows a lot. And I'm perfectly fine with obviously certain insects eating it. There's termites, no. They kill trees, I think. They definitely kill houses. But yes, I definitely would love, like, I wouldn't want just a regular tree, obviously. I would love a tree that has a purpose, in a sense. So again, like fruit trees and stuff. Just because not only they not only provide shade, but provide free food, which is fantastic.
And I think that's powerful. I think, we're going for 1 trillion trees, so I'm gonna up your 100 billion number. I think you gotta swing big on these problems that are really critical. And one of the things I love about all of you is you help to take the complex and make it accessible, whether it's for educators or for policymakers or environmentalists or for young people. And I think that that's really important because we have to take collective action. And I'm mindful of, so I just want to appreciate and thank all of you for that. I think it's really critical. And as we, kind of wrap this panel, and here we are at the biggest AI conference in the country. As we walk into this world of, we're trying to simplify some very complex issue. We have this massive technology that is headed our way and is definitely here, but sort of coming in at ground speed. And I wonder, what you're learning this week around AI, how you're thinking about AI in your own work, and how you think that humans and machines can live together in the world, and what we should be hopeful about. A little bit about what you're worried about, but what we can also be hopeful about.
Yes, well, okay. AI we're already using in our work at Gombe and around Africa. And we're using it for camera traps. And we're using it in a way that images are captured on camera traps of shy chimpanzees or other animals. They can actually be identified by AI, so we can get a feeling of how many chimpanzees there are. We can even name them, even though we've never seen them. So very different from my studies, where I knew every chimpanzee like a family member. But, that's how things move on. And we also use the kind of new AI that's coming in with satellite imagery and things like that. So I can think of many, many ways AI can make the world a better place. My worries, though, are if it gets in the wrong hands. And there's one country, I won't say its name, but if somebody crosses the road at the wrong place, by the time they get to the other side, their card has been docked of the fee for crossing the road at the wrong place. And that's, a dictatorship. That's the scare. And AI, like everything else, is a tool.
Mm-hmm.
And the tool can be used in different ways. A saw can be used to cut down dead wood and do something useful with it, or it can be used to cut down a living tree and thus make the carbon dioxide stored in the tree released into the atmosphere. And so AI is like that. And when it's in good hands, then fantastic. But it's not always in good hands. Can AI answer how we keep it out of bad hands?
Right.
There's really, I don't believe there is a way. It's human nature. Look at every single invention that we have. I wouldn't doubt majority of the inventions we have has been used wrong. Majority of it's going to be used correctly and right, but obviously there are some to a few that have been used very wrong, and a few, quite a bit more that's been used not in a good way.
Maybe a few words from you, Sadhguru, and then Matthew, I'll give you
Sure.
the last word on it. Thank you.
See, what we are referring to as artificial intelligence is a tremendous empowerment. We are on that threshold where human beings could launch themselves to become superhuman beings. Well, to be super with anything is only good when whatever our intent and identities are all-inclusive. Between nations, between organizations, between political parties, when we don't trust each other, this could have a lot of upheavals. So inevitably that's going to be there, but still, you cannot stop a technology. First of all, what you see as a technology is human aspiration. You cannot ever plug human aspirations. If you plug that, then the very purpose of who we are and what we are will go away. So how to have fulfillment of human aspirations without being destructive, that's a question. Well, at the pace at which this particular technology will go, the transition time that it allows people to catch up is so little. So there will be collateral. We should take care to ensure that collateral is minimized. It cannot be avoided. There will be collateral and pretty serious, but we must minimize it with some compassionate heart and above all an inclusive approach towards everything. Because If you're an ant, you can crawl where you want. If you become an elephant, you can't walk wherever you want, you'll crush too many things. So right now, we've become way bigger than elephants, way bigger. Every human being, the footprint is so big that if we step in wrong places, damage will happen. And in terms of creating well-being, which is there in everybody's mind, it is just the scale. See, every human being is working for well-being. Some people are thinking, my own well-being, all that matters. They get married and children and stuff, they say, me and my family well-being, me and my community, me and my nation. We have come to a point of communication and vision and ability to see things clearly that we should not think on these terms in future. Anything that we think has to be universal, otherwise we will be a very destructive force because our capabilities are reaching that point.
Profound. Thank you.
One of this, I forgot to mention this. I believe whenever Sadhguru spoke his speech, I was a little bit confused about the first third of what he was saying. I don't believe maybe even the audience understood what he was trying to say. I don't know. I'm not sure. It seems a little odd and confusing to me. But the rest of it was perfectly understandable in my opinion. Yes, I definitely got to listen to it again. It's just for some odd reason that first time he spoke it seems like something was a little bit off. I definitely got to watch it again. I think I understood it. It's just that I don't know if they did. Because again, when we speak to people, and I know Sadhguru is a very good speaker, it's just I wonder if he kind of has this high expectation to a lot of people, and sometimes maybe some people don't. Hopefully, maybe he believes a lot of people have an understanding of who he is and what he believes in. And this is the reason why whenever you hear someone speak for the first time, it can be hard to understand what they say because you have to understand their speech pattern and what their beliefs are and everything like that. This kind of goes along the lines of when you watch certain YouTubers for the first time, you get that same sensation because you're like, huh, that's really weird. Why is he talking like that? Or why is she talking like that? All of a sudden, as you watch more videos of them, you begin to understand how they speak and what they mean by the words they use. So, I guess for me, that's the reason why I kind of speak like it's my first time ever speaking to people. That way, there's little confusion. I guess because this is perhaps a what do you call it? A higher meeting? I don't know what to call it. Like, I guess intellectuals maybe going there because it's Dreamforce. I don't think these are just like random bystanders. It's like, oh, let's buy a ticket to go watch this. I think these are probably a lot of people who know what's going on in this discussion. So perhaps they do understand what Sadhguru is saying. I don't know. Like, I don't know how many people follow him in the United States. I know there's a few. I don't know if there's a lot. And I know they know obviously Matthew McConaughey and I'm sorry, I can't remember her name, but the lady that works with chimps there. So I don't know. I definitely gotta listen to that. I definitely will before I end this video. But I just hope they kind of understood what he was saying because again, he has come to America a lot. He knows how to speak to the American people, but at the same time, sometimes he can get a little bit ahead of himself. Hold on, which is something that I also kind of still. I mean, I understand whenever I watch his regular videos, but when he goes to the what do you call it? The mysticism and stuff. Yep, I'm lost. I don't know. Like, I've not heard him speak like that, so I'm completely lost in that speech. Let's see what else they have to say.
Yeah, AI is going to have consequences both ways.
Yeah.
I think we have to admit that. It's no way to keep it out of the tyrant's hands and the bad guy's hands. Just hope it's in more good hands. One of the particulars for me, and I was talking about Green Light Grant Initiative and working with Salesforce on this, is one of the main challenges is these 50-page grants that so many of these superintendents have to fill out to even have the potential to get awarded a grant. They don't have the time or the expertise to do that. We're working with Salesforce on a program that would fill out 90% of those grants. 90% of each 50-page grant, say 45 pages. And then the superintendent would go in and fill out some details, and that would be a grant that they would be able to fill out and send in to the government agencies to possibly get awarded. So that's something specifically. I'm excited about what Mark and Salesforce are doing with this idea of agent force. I am excited about that. I mean, it's a human assistant. Is it going to take a lot of human jobs? It is. It is. Is it going to be able to work 24/7 though and not clock out 365 all around the world, be omnipresent in any language at any time? Yes, that's very exciting as far as productivity for sure. I personally use it a little bit for creativity. I summarize stories, I tell it stories and try to get images and art from it to give me some art from summarizing stories. I am curious how many of us in creating this digital God, if that's a fair word to use, and I wouldn't use a capital G there, but how many of us will be bowing to that instead of a spiritual God? That concerns me a little bit, that's not really the right path to a higher ground. But overall, I am excited and optimistic. These things have gone on. I mean, we've had industrial revolutions, we've had big changes in society throughout time, and I think we're on the hinge of one, obviously, right now. And let's see what we create, because we are creating a vision of ourselves. And that mirror, we're going to be looking in a mirror when AI is realized, and what we see may surprise us. Hopefully it can surprise us in a wonderful way where we go, I didn't know I looked so good. It could also surprise us in a detrimental way where we go, oh, I thought I looked better than this.
I kind of disagree with him a little bit there in terms of the of a reflection of ourselves. I don't believe this AI will be a reflection of ourselves, but a reflection of, hopefully, facts. Obviously, AI is not going to have any emotion, any emotion attached to it. I don't believe so. I mean, it could, if there's a way to explain emotion, which I think there is. I don't know if it's how accurate it will be, but I don't think it'll be a reflection of ourselves. But perhaps, I'm not sure how to describe it, because I just don't think it's going to be a reflection of ourselves, because the human race is just so vast and different that if you sum it up into an average, it's just normal. I guess. I'm assuming there. And what is that normal? I don't know. So, I mean, I understand what he's trying to say, that because we are creating this AI, that we're inputting ourselves into it, and that hopefully that what we put into it is reflected back as something good. Which I don't think when they're creating this AI is that we're putting ourselves into it. What we're doing is we're creating this ability to think for itself and to gather facts. So it's going to be cold. It's going to be heartless. But at the same time, it's facts, hopefully it'll be facts anyways. So I'll just disagree with Matthew on that one. I don't think it'll be a reflection of ourselves, but it'll be cold hard facts, I guess.
This aspect, what Matthew pointed out, it's an extension, an expansion of who we are, in a way. In many ways, the process of evolution, one of the most beautiful things the evolutionary process has produced is the human mind. But today, human mind is the basis of most of the misery that human beings go through. It's what should have been a miracle has become a misery manufacturing process for themselves and also share it with others in so many different ways. So now this AI is going to be a super expansion of our own mind. So we need to really watch this carefully. As a part of this, because my work is with people and I see in how many ways human beings can produce misery for themselves, forget about others, for themselves. In how many ways? Essentially their intelligence turning against themselves, that's what it means. We can give it so many different names, but essentially our own intelligence is turning against us. You can call this stress, tension, anxiety, depression, whatever. But essentially our own intelligence is poking us. What is a miracle has become misery. So Once again, it's important that human beings learn how to make a miracle out of this. As these transformative technologies are unfolding, it's extremely important that we focus on individual human transformation. If we don't do that, what we create will turn against us, not because technology is bad, simply because we don't know how to handle it.
Yeah.
And yeah, absolutely. Um, I'm guessing it's because once AI, I mean, you look at the Matrix, the movie, the animated portion of it, where or we if this AI we use it carelessly, it could end up turning against us because of how we treat it. I do believe that's what Sadhguru was saying there, making a guess there. Is that not necessarily that AI is bad or good, but it's because of how we treat it and how we handle it, how we use it, will determine whether it turns against us or not. Because are we inclusive of it or exclusive of it? Another thing that he said early on in the video.
I agree. Thank you so much. I think, we heard it was a tool and a mirror and an extension of us. And, I have a lot of hope that it will be beautiful. I know there's a lot of people in the room working on incredibly powerful use cases for this technology. And we have to walk into it with intention and inclusion and universality. And I really appreciate you all being here today. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, real quick. So, interestingly enough, the very beginning intro of this video was each of them explaining their foundation and what they did. She was working with chimpanzees, which I think it's more than just working with chimpanzees. Obviously, it's breaking science a little bit, at least the boundaries of science, not the boundaries, the shackles of science. And what I mean by the shackles of science, obviously, whenever she said that, the scientists at the time were saying they're just animals, they don't have no emotions or anything like that. And when she studied them and showed them proof of emotion and social life and all of that, that it broke a shackle of science. So the reason why I say a shackle of science, because science obviously is not something that's like, how do I say? It doesn't do anything for itself. It's meant to be used as a tool. But we as human beings can shackle it. In the sense that it's like, no, don't study that. We're bounding science when we should be studying essentially everything. Now, obviously, there's some good and bad stuff that goes with studying, but still, that's what science is studying things in general. Talks about how about helping, I guess, um, middle schoolers, 9th to 12th grade, I believe. The foundation of helping people, after school things. And then we talk about Sadhguru about helping the human being with the Isha Foundation. And that's the thing I got to go back on, so I can state clearly what I said a little bit earlier about how the first third of his speech was, to me, it was a little bit confusing, because I was paying attention more for the second half, which made a lot more sense to me. And give me 1 second, let me go watch that real quick. Okay, so it's right before this speech right here. It says, right now as our body, we're not born like this. So he's talking about how we act upon our identities, how we're physically bound by borders, because without borders, without boundaries, there's no such thing as physicality. I think this can be a bit kind of confusing to some people. I do understand what he's trying to say here. It's the sheer fact that our identities create boundaries, and it's the reason why we have suffering in the world is because of our identities. And a great thing would be is to kind of give an example. I think that would help a lot of people. I try to do that all the time. Try to do examples, and that the sheer fact that because I'm let's just say I am North Korean and then I made a South Korean. Obviously, there's some conflict there because I do believe North Koreans say that South Koreans should belong to North Korea, but there's this animosity there. I do believe, or actually, North Koreans and America. I know North Koreans are, what's the word? Propagandized against North Americans. They're taught to hate North Americans all the time. So, kind of like that, where there's this boundary that's created. It's like, I'm North Korean and you're American, so therefore I hate you. He's trying to remove these this is an identity. North Korean is an identity, and because you are labeled as North Korean, you're taught to hate American, and because he's labeled American, you have to hate that person. And these identities, if these identities are removed, he's like, oh, North Koreans are supposed to hate Americans. Who's a North Korean? Don't know. Are you American? Don't know. Well, since I don't think you're North American, I don't think you're American, I don't think I'm Korean, or you're Korean, I'm American. The identities are gone, therefore there's no hate there because the identities are removed, even though the speech is still there where North Koreans should hate Americans. So that's what he was trying to say here, and I don't know if they understood that or not, because I know he talks about a lot of that, and that is a major thing that I remember him in his previous videos that I watched, which really stuck with me. It took a little bit to understand that, and to realize that as well. Identities may seem like something seem like something that's very easy to understand, but at the same time it can be difficult to understand because identities is something that's stuck with us. That's essentially the ego in terms of Advaita Vedanta. The identities, the ego is can be seen as very similar, if not the same already, where your ego as an American or your ego as a North Korean, and how you're supposed to hate these people. And I don't know. I don't know if the people there understood that particular section of the speech up to that point. Here, from here on forward, I think it's pretty simple to understand. Obviously, when you're a baby, you eat the food that's grown from the ground, and again, it's something that people don't realize, but it's something that's easy to connect. It's like, obviously, my food comes from the ground, and this body was clearly not. I wasn't born this way. I grew up. A lot of this body is part of the earth, which he didn't quite say that, and I believe in his speech. And I don't know if they understood it that way too. I wish he did say it that way, because it's very much what he says a lot too. Is the fact that what this body's made out of, we borrowed it from Earth, and we need to put it back in a sense. Same thing with everything else. We needs to be, in a sense, a cycle or recycle. Not the cycle over again, but just to recycle, as in, if we take something from the earth, we have to put it back. And right now, I do believe, I believe a lot of the speeches here is the fact that we're taking a lot from the earth, we're not putting a lot of it back. That's the reason why we have, I believe, 15% of the canopy back, from what Sadhguru said, and in the southern India part, I believe, was like become a desert, but not. Sadhguru went in there, stepped in, and they're pretty close to that 115 million plant mark. I think they're like 90 million, I believe, or pretty close, or a little bit higher than that. But again, this idea of if we take from the earth, we should be putting back to the earth as well, so that the balance is kept. And right now we're taking more than we're putting back, so there's an imbalance, and eventually that imbalance is going to tip over to the point of no return, or catastrophe will happen. I believe, anyway. A lot of assumptions there for sure, but I do believe it is an assumption from education, from intelligence. And it's strange. This is also I picked this because of AI, and I want to hear what their opinions are on AI. But the last segment of the speech, something that they kind of just did brief up on AI. Obviously, and I understand. Oh, God, I wish I remembered her name. Oh, Jane Goodall. I forgot. It's right there. If I was intelligent, I would have known that. But anyways, Jane was talking about how AI can be used for good or bad, and that's very true. No one should have that doubt. No one should believe that it can only be used for good or can be only used for bad. Anything can be used for both. It has been shown throughout history, and it will always be. There's just no way to stop it. But like Sadhguru was saying, it's going to happen. We just have to prepare for it. We have to minimize the damage as much as possible. Matthew McConaughey, I disagree a little bit with the reflection. I think he is right in terms of the reflection, minus the emotion. It's going to be essentially our intelligence put into that thing, how we think logically into that thing. So it'll be a reflection of our logic. I do believe that probably to be more so true. And what I mean by that is the sheer fact that if we think the destruction of something is the best solution, maybe AI will think the same way as we do. Or maybe if we think, I don't know, the best solution to a problem that we have of overpopulation. Like, let me start over. The best solution to overpopulation, the destruction of humanity, and therefore no more overpopulation problem. It might do that, or maybe the solution for that is like, planting trees, slowing childbirth, not completely going away, but limiting to two at most, and because again, if you only ever have two, you're just replacing yourself. If everyone in the earth only ever had two babies, the population will not grow. It will stay steady because it takes two adults obviously to have a baby, a man and a woman. Um, but of course, the man and woman kind of has to stay balanced too. But outside of that, the population will stay growing. If it's one, it'll cut in half because two people is being replaced by one person, so that's half. If two people is being replaced by two people, it's steady. If two people is being replaced by three, it's a slight incline. So anyway, it's obvious numbers. But Matthew McConaughey says, it's a reflection. I disagree to some extent. It's a reflection of our logic. I think that our intelligence and our logic, not our emotion. So it's not going to have compassion. It'll just have cold, hard logic, I believe. It's obvious. It's a computer. It has no way of feeling emotions. It's logical. So I do believe it to be a reflection of that. So anyways, I think I spoke way too much in this video. Even though I didn't really speak a lot during the parts because I didn't really have much to say. So anyways, if you like my content, please consider subscribing, thumbs up the sign down below. Thanks for watching. I will see you in the next vid.